They look like ordinary cars, but beneath their plain design, they hide serious power. These rare sleeper cars can surprise even the fastest sports cars. Stay tuned as we reveal the 8 rarest sleeper cars that made the 80s era. Number 8, 1989, Pontiac Grand Prix Turbo. If you are looking for a rare Pontiac that hides a big surprise under the hood, this is it. The 1989 Pontiac Turbo Grand Prix by ASC/MC Laren. Only between 2,500 and 3,500 of these were ever made between 1989 and 1990. So finding one today is nearly impossible. But here it is, shining in bright red and waiting for a new owner. At first glance, it looks like just another clean Pontiac Grand Prix SE from the late 80s, the kind you might see abandoned in a junkyard. But this one is different, very different. This car has a secret connection to McLaren, the legendary name behind some of the fastest race cars in the world. Now, this isn't exactly the same McLaren that builds modern supercars, but in the 1980s, McLaren helped make this Pontiac special. Under the hood sits a turbocharged 189 cubic inch V6 engine that was tuned by McLaren to make 205 horsepower and 220 pound-feet of torque. That is a big jump from the regular Grand Prix SE, which only had 130 horsepower. All that power is sent to the front wheels through a 4-speed automatic transmission. It might not be rear-wheel drive like other muscle cars, but this Pontiac was built to impress in its own way. And it is not just about the engine. The American sunroof company ASC gave this car its aggressive look. The wide body flares, functional hood vents, and gold-painted 16-inch crosslace wheels wrapped in 9.6 inches Goodyear Eagle ZR50 tires make sure it stands out. The dual stainless steel exhaust peeking out the back lets everyone know this car is something special. Step inside, and it is like entering a time machine straight to the 1980s. The seats? Big, soft, tan leather recliners that look like they were taken straight from a fancy furniture store. They are 10-way power adjustable, making sure every drive is comfortable. And if you love buttons, this car has tons of them, including a set of big ones on the steering wheel. It even comes with a Delco cassette player and a graphic equalizer, perfect for blasting your favorite rock hits from the 80s. Now, here's the crazy part. Even though this Pontiac is over 35 years old, it has only 5,500 miles on it. That's barely anything for a car this old. The current owner has only added around 300 miles and even spent $5,000 fixing the ABS brakes. The headliner is brand new, but the low fuel light does not work. Not a big deal, just an old car quirk. Some of the badges are oxidized, but that is expected after so many years. Oh, and here's a fun fact. Back in the day, one of these Pontiac Grand Prix models was sent to Mikhail Gorbachev, the leader of the Soviet Union. He kept it until his passing in 2022, and rumor has it, he might have even driven it to Moscow's first Pizza Hut. With so few of these ever made, finding another one, especially with such low miles, is almost impossible. If you want a true piece of 1980s muscle car history, this Pontiac Turbo Grand Prix by ASC/MC. Laren is one of the best you can get, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Number 7, 1987, Buick LeSabre T-Type. If we're talking about the rarest cars, how can we forget not to consider 1987 Buick LeSabre T-Type? Buick built a total of 154,331 LeSabres that year, but only 4,123 were the special T-Type version. That means this car was already rare when it was new, and today, finding one in good shape is nearly impossible. At first appearance, it looks like a regular Buick LeSabre, a full-size, comfortable car that most people wouldn't expect to be exciting. But this one is different. It has the T-Type badge, which means it has something special under the hood. Sitting there is a 232 cubic inch V6 engine, making 150 horsepower, backed by a 4-speed automatic transmission. That might not sound like much today, but back in 1987, this was a solid performer. The Goodyear Eagle GT tires size 215 millimeters wide, kept it planted on the road, while the strut suspension gave it a smooth but firm ride. Now, let's talk about the look. This car came in different colors, but the black version was the one that really stood out. It was so dark and aggressive that people joked it was Darth Vader's car. Buick had already made the Grand National and the GNX, two of the most feared cars of the time, and the LeSabre T-Type tried to follow in their footsteps. The problem? Buick was a little confused about what it wanted to be. Some of their cars were built for speed, while others were made for comfort. The T-Type was caught in the middle. Inside, Buick tried to make it feel sporty, but things didn't quite match up. The dashboard was huge, stretching across the car like a wall, and the seats were covered in black and gray cloth that some people didn't really like. Buick did fix some things from its older models, adding more gauges on the dashboard and removing the shiny metal trim, but it still wasn't as driver-focused as some of its competitors. One of the strangest features was the seatbelt system. Instead of regular seatbelts, Buick used an automatic seatbelt setup, where the belts were connected to the doors. When you opened the door, you had to slide under the belt to get into the seat. It sounded like a good idea, but in real life, it was annoying. The belt would catch on the seat, your legs, or anything in the way. Most people just unbuckled it and used it like a normal seatbelt. Now, when it comes to driving, the LeSabre T-Type was comfortable and smooth, but it wasn't as sharp as some of its rivals. The Pontiac Bonneville SE, which was built on the same platform, handled better and had a more exciting ride. The Buick, on the other hand, felt a bit stiff, almost too strong for its own good. Maybe that's why the T-Type didn't sell well. With only 3% of all LeSabres being T-Type models, this was the rarest version. Today, that makes it a true collector's car. If you ever see one, know that you're looking at one of the most unique Buicks ever made. Number 6, 1985, Mercury Marquis LTS. The Mercury Marquis is one of those cars that quietly existed, never grabbing the spotlight, but still leaving a mark. From 1983 to 1986, over 300,000 of these mid-sized sedans and wagons were made. It was never the best-selling car, but it was solid, reliable, and comfortable. While the big Grand Marquis stayed fancy and luxurious, this Marquis had a simpler job, offering an affordable mid-range option. But here's the thing. This car was basically a Ford LTD with different badges and a few styling tweaks. Ford and Mercury did this a lot back then, making nearly identical cars with slight differences. For an extra $116, you got the Marquis, which had Mercury's grille, unique taillights, and black trim panels. It looked nice, with a gently sloped front and rear that made it smoother than the boxy Granada it replaced. The rear window had a sharp 60-degree angle, adding to its sleek shape. Inside, the Marquis was comfortable but not fancy. The Brougham trim, the nicest version, had soft seats, carpeted door panels, extra lights, and a digital clock. A bench seat in the front let 3 people sit side by side, though the middle person had to squeeze around the center console. The dashboard? Borrowed from an older Thunderbird, which made the interior feel a bit outdated even when new. The Powerhouse had 2 choices. The base model had a 140 cubic inch, 4-cylinder engine with 88 horsepower, which wasn't very exciting. Most people went for the 232 cubic inch, fuel-injected V6, which made 120 horsepower and 205 pound-feet of torque. That engine cost an extra $418, but it made driving much better. The Marquis wasn't a sports car. It had a soft suspension that made the ride smooth but floaty. Steering was light and it felt like a traditional American sedan. Big, soft, and easy to drive. For people who wanted something sportier, Mercury made a high-performance version called the Marquis LTS. But here's the crazy part. Only 134 of them were ever made. They had a V8 engine, firmer suspension, and special styling, but they were only sold in Canada for 1 year. That makes them one of the rarest Mercury cars ever. By 1986, the only major change was a new center brake light to meet safety rules. After that, the Marquis name disappeared from midsize cars, and Mercury focused on other models. The Grand Marquis lived on, but this midsize version faded into history. Today, these cars are hard to find. Most were used up, driven into the ground, and forgotten. But for those who remember, the Marquis was a well-built, no-nonsense car that did its job without drama. It may not have been flashy, but it was dependable, roomy, and smooth. Everything a Mercury was meant to be. Number 5, 1984, Dodge 600 ES Turbo. This car is a hidden treasure, a rare gem from the 1980s that most people don't even remember. Only 1,786 of these Dodge 600 ES Turbo convertibles were made in the first year, 1984. The next year, sales jumped to 5,621, and in 1986, production dropped to 4,759. Then, just like that, it was gone. This car had a short life, but it left a mark, proving that Chrysler was ready to shake things up. Back in the early 1980s, Chrysler was in trouble. Big, heavy cars were out, and small, smart cars were in. So, Chrysler came up with the K-Car platform, a new kind of car that was light, efficient, and easy to drive. The Dodge 600 was part of this revolution. But then came the special one, the ES Turbo convertible. This was not just any K-car. This was the cool one, the fast one, the one that made people turn their heads. What made it so special? Let's start with the engine. Under the hood sat a 134 cubic inch, turbocharged, 4-cylinder engine that pumped out 142 horsepower. Now, in today's world, that might not sound like much, but back then, in a car that weighed just 2,700 pounds, it was quick. Push the gas, and you'd feel a rush as the turbo kicked in, sending power to the front wheels. But that power came with a challenge: torque steer. If you slammed the pedal, the front wheels would fight for control, pulling the car left and right. It gave the car personality, a bit of a wild side that made it fun to drive. But this car wasn't just about speed, it had style. The ES package brought blacked-out trim, replacing most of the chrome for a sportier look. It had special 15-inch aluminum wheels, often called pizza wheels, because of their round holes. The hood had real working vents, making it look aggressive even when parked. And the grille? A sleek body-colored design that gave it a serious, confident face. It looked different from the Chrysler LeBaron convertible, even though the two were closely related. Inside, it had leather seats, a digital dashboard, and a unique 4-spoke steering wheel. This wasn't just a basic drop top. It had a touch of luxury mixed with sportiness. It felt like a car that wanted to have fun but still had a little class. Even though it was special, the Dodge 600 ES Turbo never became a huge hit. The Chrysler LeBaron convertible always outsold it. Maybe people liked the idea of luxury more than sportiness, but today, that makes this Dodge even rarer. Finding one in good shape is nearly impossible. It is a reminder of a time when Chrysler was bold, trying new things and bringing excitement back to the American car market. The Dodge 600 ES Turbo convertible was a short-lived star. Fast, stylish, and different. It proved that even underdogs could have their moment in the sun. Number 4, 1989, Chevrolet Celebrity Eurosport VR. This car is a legend, but almost nobody remembers it. Fewer than 2,000 of these Chevrolet Celebrity Eurosport VR models were ever made between 1987 and 1988. That makes it one of the rarest Chevrolets from the 1980s. If you see one on the road today, you are looking at a piece of history. The Chevrolet Celebrity was everywhere in the 1980s. It was a simple, front-wheel drive, mid-size car built by General Motors. More than 2 million of them rolled off the assembly line in different styles: sedans, coupes, and wagons. But most of them were plain, ordinary, and built for one purpose: to get people from one place to another. They had small engines, basic interiors, and just enough power to keep up with traffic. They were not exciting. But then came the Eurosport. Chevrolet wanted to make the Celebrity cooler, sportier, and more European. They blacked out the chrome, added red trim, gave it a firmer suspension, and offered a stronger engine, a 171 cubic inch, 6-cylinder engine with 130 horsepower. It was not exactly a race car, but it had a bit more energy than the standard models. Still, Chevrolet wanted something even more special. So, in 1986, they built a show car called the Celebrity Eurosport RS. It had a bold, aggressive body kit, bigger wheels, and a unique look that made it stand out. People loved it. So, Chevrolet decided to build a production version, the Celebrity Eurosport VR. The VR package cost $3,500, which was a lot of money back then. In today's value, that is about $9,500, and it was added to a car that already cost around $10,000. That means buyers had to pay almost one-third more just to get this rare version. But for those who did, they got something special. The Celebrity Eurosport VR had a completely new look. It came with a factory body kit, giving it a low, aggressive stance. The front bumper had extra vents, the side skirts made it look wider, and the rear had a special diffuser that made it seem faster, even if it wasn't. The wheels were sporty, and the entire car had a blacked-out design with bold red stripes. Inside, the seats had red piping, and the steering wheel was black. Everything about it screamed performance. Was it fast? Not really. It still had the same 171 cubic inch, 6-cylinder engine with 130 horsepower and a 3-speed automatic transmission. But that did not matter. It looked fast, it felt special, and it was incredibly rare. Today, finding a Celebrity Eurosport VR in good condition is nearly impossible. It was one of the best-looking cars in the General Motors lineup. But because so few were made, it has become a forgotten classic. For those who know, this car is a true piece of 1980s American performance history. Number 3, 1987 Dodge Lancer Shelby. This car is a rare legend. Only about 800 Shelby Lancers were ever made in 1987. Half of them had a 3-speed automatic transmission with a leather interior, and the other half had a 5-speed manual transmission with cloth seats. That makes this car one of the rarest performance sedans from the 1980s. If you see one today, you're looking at a forgotten piece of American muscle history. The Dodge Lancer was already a solid mid-size car, but in 1987, Dodge teamed up with Shelby to turn it into something special. The result was the Shelby Lancer, a turbocharged performance sedan designed to take on the best sports sedans from Europe, like the BMW 3 Series and Peugeot 405. It was fast, stylish, and packed with high-tech features. On the outside, the Shelby Lancer looked aggressive. It had a factory body kit with ground effects, a small rear spoiler, and unique 15-inch wheels. Unlike the regular Dodge Lancer, this one had Shelby branding instead of Dodge badges. It came in bright red at first, but later models in 1988 and 1989 were also available in white. The powerhouse equipped by a 134 cubic inch 4-cylinder turbocharged engine making 175 horsepower. That may not sound like much today, but back then it was serious power for a front-wheel drive car. It had a reinforced transaxle and soft engine mounts to handle the extra torque. Weighing just over 3,000 pounds, it was not the fastest car on the road, but it had great handling. On a skid pad test, it pulled 0.85 G, proving that it could stick to the road better than most cars of its time. Inside, the Shelby Lancer was ahead of its time. It had a 10-speaker Pioneer CD sound system, a luxury feature in the late 1980s. The seats were deeply bolstered for support, and the dashboard, though simple, had everything a driver needed. Sadly, the Shelby Lancer was never a big hit, but today it is a rare and special car that true enthusiasts appreciate. If you ever get the chance to own one, grab it before it disappears forever. Number 2, 1985 Chrysler Executive Sedan Turbo. The 1985 Chrysler Executive Sedan Turbo is a rare masterpiece. Chrysler made only 1,700 executive models in total, including all sedans and limousines. So finding one today is like discovering a hidden treasure. This was Chrysler's bold attempt to create a luxury car that felt like a limousine but was still practical enough for daily use. This car started as a regular Chrysler LeBaron, but Chrysler stretched it to give passengers in the back much more space. The executive sedan was all about comfort. It had 2-position footrests, rear seat headrests, soft cloth-covered panels, and reading lamps built into the pillars. The rear seats were designed for passengers to relax, with extra legroom and adjustable headrests. The dashboard and center console were special, too. The sedan had a unique center console between the front seats that included air conditioning vents for the rear passengers. The theater-style lighting inside made the car feel even more luxurious. When you closed the doors, the lights slowly dimmed instead of shutting off suddenly. Small details like this made the Chrysler executive stand out. Under the hood, the 134 cubic inch turbocharged four-cylinder engine gave the executive a much-needed power boost compared to earlier models. Paired with a 3-speed automatic transmission, it was not a sports car, but it had enough power to move this long sedan smoothly. With its luxury features, spacious design, and limited production, the 1985 Chrysler Executive Sedan Turbo is a forgotten legend of American car history. Number 1, 1983, Ford LTD LX. The 1983 Ford LTD LX is a forgotten legend. Ford made only 3,260 units in total before the model disappeared, making it one of the rarest American sedans of its time. It was a car stuck between two eras, part luxury cruiser, part performance machine. At first glance, it looked like a regular Ford LTD, but Ford gave it a blackout trim sport suspension and a more powerful engine, turning it into something special. Inside, it packed a 305 cubic inch high-output V8 engine that produced up to 175 horsepower. This was the same engine found in the Ford Mustang GT, giving the LTD LX serious muscle. But instead of pairing it with a 5-speed manual transmission, Ford only offered a 4-speed automatic transmission, which left some enthusiasts wanting more. Inside, the LTD LX mixed comfort with performance. It had sportier seats, a tilt steering wheel, and a full set of gauges to keep the driver informed. The suspension was tuned to handle and borrow parts from the Mustang GT. That meant this sedan could take corners better than most American cars of its time. It even became popular with police departments, who loved its mix of speed and practicality. Despite all this, the LTD LX never got the attention it deserved. It was overshadowed by the front-wheel drive cars that were taking over the market. But for those who know, the 1983 Ford LTD LX remains a true hidden gem in American car history. Which rare sleeper car do you think deserves more recognition? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Geil. Geil.
Aber offensichtlich der nächste potente Radical. Und ein Skoda und trotz Heckmotor.
Jetzt der.
Wie so ein Berg. Denkst du unten mal entgegen. Guck, 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 guck.
Das ist halt kein Wies. Ist mal was anderes, ne?
Ja! Oi!
Klicker.
Dobrý, jdeme na to!